Have you ever gotten a package that looked like it had been opened and then taped back up? You probably think it's customs or maybe a clumsy delivery driver. I know the truth. My name is Mike. I'm 26 and I work, well, used to work, the night shift at the Apex Logistics Center just outside Detroit. Picture a building the size of 10 football fields, a windowless concrete box stuffed with steel, cardboard, and the dreams of 2 days shipping. I sat in the fishbowl, that's what we called the security post, a booth made of bulletproof glass surrounded by a wall of 40 monitors. My job was simple: make sure nobody walked out with a new iPhone in their underwear and make sure nobody broke in. But here's a question for you. Have you ever wondered why your Prime delivery arrives with a strange slit on the side, or why the tape is a slightly different shade? You write it off as a security check. I call it the rent. The FBI once released a report about blind spots in mega warehouses, architectural errors, places where cameras haven't looked in years because the angle is blocked by new shelving units. In our center, those zones covered thousands of square feet. Right now, as I say this, the only sound I can hear in my memory is the hum, that low, vibrating drone of the conveyor belts. Miles of black rubber rubbing against rollers. If you listen to it at 3 a.m., the sound stops being mechanical. It starts to sound like a swarm, a million insects crawling somewhere behind the drywall. And on that night, the swarm was hungry. It started around 2 in the morning. My eyelids were heavy, and the vending machine coffee tasted like hot battery acid. To keep from passing out, I decided to do a round. Strict corporate metrics require the guard to physically tag checkpoints every 60 minutes. Miss a minute, and the system emails the manager. Goodbye bonus. I headed for Sector G12, the far warehouse. That's where they keep the oversized cargo that rarely gets ordered. 85-inch TVs, patio furniture, industrial generators. Packers rarely go there. As soon as I crossed the yellow line into Zone G, the smell hit me. Usually it smells like dust and fresh cardboard, a sweet, dry scent. But tonight, there was something sour mixed in. The smell of stale sweat, unwashed bodies, and onions. I shone my flashlight between the rows of pallets. Clear. But 10 yards later, I saw it. A crumpled Wendy's burger wrapper lying on the concrete floor. Greasy, shiny paper. Food is strictly forbidden on the floor. The penalty is immediate termination. I picked up the wrapper. It was still warm. Did someone order Uber Eats to the loading dock? "Hey," I shouted into the darkness. "Come out. I won't write you up. Just get out of here." Silence. Just the hum of the belts overhead. I followed the trail of trash, an empty energy drink can, a napkin, and finally, behind a stack of boxes containing Samsung plasma panels, I found the nest. It was a narrow space between the wall and the racking. There lay a sleeping bag, not some old blanket, but a brand new, expensive REI camping bag. I knew the product. It was listed in the inventory of Sector B4. Someone had stolen it off the shelf to sleep on it. Next to it stood 3 plastic soda bottles filled with a dark, cloudy yellow liquid. Urine. I recoiled in disgust. I figured some homeless guy had managed to slip through the loading dock to wait out the Detroit freeze. To hell with this, I whispered. I didn't want to deal with the police and the paperwork. I just wanted to find the guy, kick him out the back door, and forget it. But the sleeping bag was empty. I touched it. It was still warm inside. I went back to the fishbowl, feeling the hair on the back of my neck stand up. You know that feeling when you realize you're being watched? That was it. I locked the booth door and sat at the monitors. I needed to find where the drifter went. I rewound the footage on camera 44, which looks at the aisle leading to Sector G12. I went back 5 minutes. What I saw made me forget how to breathe. On the screen, in the grainy black and white of night vision, it wasn't just one person crawling out from behind the shelves. There were 3 of them. They didn't look like homeless people. They were wearing our uniforms, vests with the company logo, dark pants. But they moved
Wrong. They crawled out of the blind spot in sync, like a single organism. No wasted movements, an absolute unnatural fluidity. They didn't run for the exit. I zoomed in. Their faces were blurred, but I saw their actions. They walked to the XL packaging line. One of them grabbed a huge refrigerator box. The other two helped him climb inside. He curled up tightly within the cardboard. The second one placed styrofoam padding on top and taped the box shut. Professional. Fast. Then the remaining two did the same with another box, helping each other. The last one sealed himself in. I don't know how, but 10 seconds later, there were 3 sealed boxes on the conveyor belt, ready for shipment. They weren't stealing merchandise. They were shipping themselves. Cold sweat broke out over my entire body. Where the hell were they going? And how many of them were in these walls? I grabbed the phone to dial 911. Silence. The line was dead. I grabbed the radio. Base, code red. We have intruders in sector. The only response was static. A dull, rhythmic static, like breathing. And then, someone knocked on the glass of my fishbowl. Knock, knock, knock. I jumped, dropping the radio. Standing outside the glass was Mr. Henderson, the night shift supervisor. I exhaled, feeling my knees turn to jelly with relief. Thank God. Mr. Henderson, I ran to the door. We have an emergency. The phones are down. There are people in sector. Henderson was smiling, but it wasn't his usual tired half-smile. It was a wide, stretched grimace showing way too many teeth. His eyes didn't blink. He held his hands behind his back. Mike, his voice sounded muffled through the thick glass. We just have a security system glitch. Open the door. I reached for the lock, but my hand froze. Something was wrong. His ID badge, it was hanging upside down. Henderson was a neat freak. He fired a guy last week for an untucked shirt. He would never wear his badge upside down. Mike, he repeated, and his smile twitched but didn't fade. Open up. We need to leave through the fire exit. They cut the phones because of the fire alarm. There was no fire alarm, sir, I said, stepping back from the door. Open the door, Mike. His voice cracked into a high-pitched shriek, sounding nothing like Henderson's baritone. I looked down at his feet. At the start of the shift, Mr. Henderson was wearing polished black Oxfords. I remembered because he complained about a blister. The person outside the door was wearing dirty, worn-out New Balance sneakers, splattered with something brown. That wasn't Henderson. That was someone who had taken his uniform, probably while he was still alive. You're not Henderson, I whispered. The smile vanished from the creature's face instantly. His expression went blank, like an empty cardboard box. He pulled his hands behind his back. In his right hand, he held a large box cutter, and in his left, a bundle of plastic zip ties. Open it, he screamed and slammed the knife against the glass. I didn't wait. I grabbed my heavy Maglite flashlight and smashed the rear emergency panel of the booth leading to the main hall. I ran.
I ran through the maze of shelves, not knowing where I was going. The warehouse had turned into a canyon. Boxes of diapers, graphics cards, and books towered over me like skyscrapers. Behind me, a whistle cut through the air, a short, sharp, bird-like sound. And it was answered from the left, from the right, from straight ahead. They were calling to each other. They were herding me. This wasn't just a group of squatters. This was a pack, and this warehouse was their forest. They knew every shortcut, every hole in the pallets. I turned into the household chemicals aisle and slipped on spilled soap. A trap? I fell, hitting my hip hard, and my flashlight beam caught the top shelf of the rack. From there, 15 feet up, eyes were watching me.
2 people were crouching on top of the shelving unit like gargoyles. They jumped. I scrambled up and bolted forward, hearing their soft soles slapping against the concrete right behind my back. Slap, slap, slap. The whistling got louder. They were enjoying this. Up ahead, I saw the glowing exit sign, the fire escape to the roof. I flew up the stairs, hearing the sound of a zipper closing right by my ear. Someone tried to throw a zip tie loop over my head. I swung the flashlight backward, blindly. I heard a crunch and a scream. I kicked the door to the roof open, and the cold Michigan night air hit my face. I didn't stop. I climbed over the parapet. Below, about 12 feet down, stood an open dumpster filled with cardboard and plastic. I jumped. The pain in my leg was blinding. I heard the dry snap of a bone breaking as I landed on the pile of pressed paper. But I crawled out. I limped to my car as fast as I could, dragging my broken ankle. When I started the engine and turned on the headlights, I looked up at the roof. There, on the edge, stood 6 figures. They just stood there, watching. One of them, the Anderson uniform one, slowly raised his hand and waved at me. Then he ran his finger across my throat. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They surrounded the building. SWAT teams combed Sector G12 for 6 hours. You know what they found? Tunnels. Inside the racks themselves, behind the rows of boxes, passages had been carved out. A whole network of rat holes where you could move through the entire warehouse without ever touching the floor. They found 40 sleeping spots, leftover food, mountains of stolen clothes. A whole commune was living there. The family, as it was named in the report. But they didn't catch anyone. Not a single person. When the police went in, the warehouse was empty. And they never found Anderson. Only his shoes and his upside-down badge, neatly left in the center of the security fishbowl. I quit. I moved to another state, but I still can't sleep. You see, the police think they escaped through the back gates. But I saw the video. I saw how they packed themselves into boxes. Every day, thousands of trucks leave that center. They go to every corner of the country, to New York, to Texas, to your town. And sometimes, when I order something large, a vacuum cleaner or an armchair, I'm afraid to open the box. I stand with a knife in my hand in front of the cardboard, and I listen. I'm afraid that inside, it won't be my order. I'm afraid that when I cut the tape, a pair of eyes that are used to the dark will look back at me, and I'll hear that quiet, bird-like whistle.